Let's talk about freedom in America. Let's talk about the state of freedom in these 50 states, in this American life. And I'm referring, of course, to the Cato Institute's annual Freedom in the 50 States ranking of all the 50 states by the policies that shape personal and economic freedom.
Gotta love it, brother.
Gotta love it, brother. Cato Institute.
Really exciting to be able to look up how free you are in one easy place.
Now, I am broadcasting from New York State. Let's look this up real quick on the map. Hold on a second. What? Ranking overall 50. New York is the least free state in the country again?
I'm gonna fucking kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. I am going to kill myself.
We smuggle Chapo out of the state on like a microfilm every week.
Yeah.
It's like East Berlin.
Me and Will are making a seastead.
I'm looking down. Wait.
You need to read their policy recommendations for New York.
Yes.
The policy recommendations are incredible. I mean, New York being 50th is one thing, but their recommendations for making it just that little bit more free are to cut spending on hospitals, housing, libraries, public welfare, sanitation and sewerage.
Double check.
Public transit, employee retirement, and miscellaneous.
Get that stuff out of there. All those people with no access to healthcare and housing are going to be free as hell.
So if you're wondering why you felt so unfree in New York, it's that your shit is whisked away from you by your toilet. That's what's making you feel so damn oppressed.
Libby, I'm looking at the policy recommendations and I'm thinking to myself, I've lived in New York City my entire life, and if there's one thing I've had too much of, it's sanitation, sewage, and public transit. We spend way too much money on all of those things. If we just turned it over to the private sector, we would be living in a utopia, or at least a less
coin-operated toilets.
It's fucking oppressed by the libraries.
What do they have against library? How much money are we spending on libraries?
I don't know. I
$8 billion a year.
Any money is too much.
Libraries are by definition just an affront to them, because you go there and they give you a book for free. It's just their brain short circuit. They can't process it.
There are barely no Barnes and Nobles left in New York either. That's also terrible. You can't even pay for books anymore.
We spend $80 billion a year on libraries in Brooklyn alone. If you add it up to the entire city, the state of New York spends $2 trillion on libraries every year. If you just uncuck the tax disbursements, you have to uncuck the data. Do the math. Okay. How many kids are there in New York? 500 million. We have to pay a tax per kid of $2 a year. Add that up. How much is that? That's $1 trillion. And then they give you a processing fee, which is $1. That's $2 trillion. We're paying $2 trillion for all these libraries so the kids can rent Beetleborgs comic books? No, thank you.
Libby, I'm also looking at the policy recommendations here, and it also says abolish rent control. Yes, if there's one thing I'm impressed by in New York City, it's the ability to afford the apartment I live in. It's the single most crushing form of oppression that I face is being able to pay rent in New York City.
Yeah, I'm pretty disgusted that your landlord doesn't have the ability to charge, $7,000 for a closet. That's his right as an American to do that.
If I was a landlord,
if they got rid of it, every building would have 15 doormen who all knew Hamilton by heart and rapped it for you every time you came home.
It says one more.
It'd be amazing.
One more prescription. It says slash tobacco taxes, which are so high as to be almost tantamount to prohibition. Now I know Felix, you feel me on that one, right?
I actually get the cigarettes without tax stamps, and if they lowered them, then I would be probably paying $10 a pack, and I pay $8 a pack, and because it would take out the incentive to break the law, so actually keep them very high. So I keep getting them without tax stamps.
I have lived in New York my entire life, and we need more people smoking, less public transportation, and sort of a la carte public services like sewage, fire, and
Uber for shit. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, that I can agree with. That I can totally agree with.
The tobacco tax thing reminds me of so when I worked at Media Matters, it was when Eric Garner was killed, and Sean Hannity's argument about that was that Eric Garner wouldn't have died if it weren't for tobacco taxes, because the fact that tobacco taxes are so high meant that he was selling loosies, and if he wasn't selling loosies, then he wouldn't have been strangled to death by a cop. And he had this guy on his radio show to talk about how Texas is the most free state because it has no taxes or whatever. And his big thing was that like tobacco taxes killed Eric Garner. So it's clearly like...
And black people are not killed in Texas ever.
It's
by
like
the police. It's amazing.
Never
you look at the statistics.
I'm going through the Freedom in 50 States map as well. I'm looking at North Carolina right now, which is ranked 19.
Free as hell.
So it's going to have some work to do, but... it's funny, I don't see anything in the policy recommendations about letting trans people use the bathroom.
Well, there are some very interesting things missing from... I do want to talk about how it's calculated. So one huge thing that's missing from their weighting of things is abortion. They don't include abortion at all. It's just, and there's actually a footnote in the report about how they've like calculated it with abortion. If you want to do it yourself, if that's important to you, if you're like one of the literally millions of women who's had an abortion. But other things that do feature include trans fat bans. That gets 0.1%. Whether raw milk is legal is a thing that factors into their calculations. Prostitution, physician-assisted suicide. But the one that really caught my eye was under personal freedom. Cousin marriage is one of the things that they consider.
Nobody is talking about this. Nobody is talking about this. So wait, what state has the highest freedom in terms of the ability to marry your first cousin?
I haven't actually looked. I don't know if it allows you to break it down by that. But I think
it's got to be West Virginia, right? Come on.
You would think, yeah. But it really, I need to point out that, so they tell you like what percentage they give to each of these things. And so like, drug enforcement rate is 1.4%, for example, or public school choice is 0.1%. Cousin marriage is 0.4%. So cousin marriage is 4 times as important in terms of freedom as the ability to choose your kid's school. It's also more important than a waiting period for gun purchases, firearms licensing index, initial permit limit. All these things that to them. Wait a second.
This whole libertarian thing is just a big smokescreen for a couple guys to fuck their cousins.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of beautiful if you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, also, by the way, cousin marriage...
have you ever been to a Koch family reunion? It gets fucking wild around the punch bowl, yo.
Sorry, one more thing.
Cousin marriage is also weighted exactly the same as sodomy laws. So if you're forbidden from having anal sex, that's the same amount as fucking your cousin.
What about sodomizing your cousin? That's the freest... that is the freest you can be.
That's freedom squared.
Sodomizing your cousin with trans fats is the freest you can be.
Sorry, one more digression about New York. I came back to New York, which is ranked the least free state in America. Cato also says, New York's criminal justice policies are reasonably decent. But looking at the overall map, and we were talking about this a little before, it's interesting. Like I said, New York and California are rated as the least free states in America. The most free states in America, these are the states with the highest ranking of overall freedom, are Alaska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Indiana. Of those states,
amazing states.
Of those states, Indiana is basically the only one where people actually live, but is also an absolute shithole.
It's a shithole. I drive through that thing like once a month, and it's the most godforsaken shit realm on earth. It's called the Crossroads of America. Its motto literally is an admission that people drive through it to get somewhere more interesting.
Indiana invented a little thing called racism.
They did have the largest Klan movement in the 20s, so kudos there.
They didn't invent the Klan. They invented the Klan. Don't you feel silly now?
But basically, they rate all these states as being the most free because there is the least taxation and the least regulation on business. But of course, we noted the irony that they are among the least populated states in America, and the states where basically anyone actually wants to live and work are all the least free, according to Cato. So, what to make of this irony? If you are a libertarian, how do you process this?
Shut up. People are sheeple. They're just sheeple.
But Matt, you made the point that, like, in Cold War propaganda, it was like a knock on the Soviet Union that everyone wanted to come to America for democracy, whiskey,
it was
sexy,
they always say, like, you're voting with your feet, you know?
And they wanted to come to the
people
West.
People do vote for their feet, and they want less freedom. People march towards the sound of regulation and government spending
and public transportation.
But that's because libertarianism is brutally unpopular, and that's the big joke at the heart of the whole thing. It's very high profile because there are a number of crazy old rich assholes who are very interested in making it popular and are willing to spend a lot of money on it. But it's just a thing that nobody actually cares about. Nobody is intuitively interested in it. Nobody, when you explain what it would mean to their lives, wants to get on board. And that's just a reality that none of them can confront.
Right. I mean, this is the thing. They keep talking about economic freedom in this thing. They keep talking about how they're calculating economic freedom, but that's not really what economic freedom means. Like, economic freedom means, you know, that you are able to feed your children. You know, like that you are able to live and you know, not die, I guess.
Excuse me, ma'am, but I believe you're referring to positive liberty. Positive liberty is a chimera and the road to serfdom. The only true liberty is negative liberty. Good day, madam.
Oh God, is that Robbie Soul's music?
I actually don't believe anything. Never mind.
By God, it is Robbie Suave.
I just want. They're hiring.
I just like
reason
games,
pays me.
guys.
I don't really have any core beliefs of any kind. I just like hanging out with Ben Dreyfuss and going to have epic cocktails at DC's hottest clubs and wearing a lanyard every day of my life. I don't actually care about anything.
Libby, I'm looking again at the how it's scored, and
so
under labor market freedom, they give negative points for paid family leave.
Oh my God, the tyranny of being able to go home and take care of your kid when you have a child.
Right.
I could be working, and you're making me stay home.
Get that shit out of there.
I leave this child at home to suckle on the dog. It was good enough for Romulus and Remus. It'll be good enough for my strong son Thaddeus. And let me get back out there and make money like I'm supposed to, like I want to, because I'm free.
Wow! I would really hate to give my child abandonment issues and to keep them from becoming a successful sexually repressed playwright. Morons.
They have this huge thing as well about occupational licensing. They seem to think that occupational licensing is like the greatest threat to personal liberty.
Oh my God,
America.
Much like Matthew Iglesias and
Will Wilkinson wrote a huge piece in Vox about that.
Well, that's an Iglesias thing too. It's for all of the libertarians who don't want to get on board with like the Hans Hermann Hoppe, you know, blood and soil, you know, moats and castle keeps and napalm baths for the poor.
Right.
They don't want to get on board with that. So they're like, you know, we should make being a barber easier.
Right, but like the thing is like,
but they can still cash the checks. That's the important thing.
Right, because like I mean, I think like the poster child for this cause is like people who work in salons, like people who manicurists and stuff. But some of the occupations that they want to deregulate in Nevada include opticians, childcare workers is something I really do not want to deregulate. I'm really happy with as many regulations as possible on that. Clinical laboratory technologists, pharmacy technicians, taxi drivers.
Libby, what you're saying to me is that you don't want poor people to have access to affordable childcare and medicine. Is what I mean. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other. It's either
typical
have a
bloody Tory. She's a bloody Tory,
is this
mate.
Margaret Thatcher?
She's Thatcher.
I'm Theresa May, mate.
We got Thatcher on the show. It's bloody shambles.
But Libby, your point about how abortion doesn't feature anywhere on the ranking, I think if I'm looking on the personal freedom and like the typical libertarian thing where they're like, hey, we don't think people should be thrown in jail for drugs. Hey, it's cool to be gay. You know, Defensive Marriage Act is wrong. But all these things are essentially, I know women go to jail too, but these are very male. It's just like, it speaks to how male-oriented the libertarian worldview is, that nothing related to the being a woman features in this at all.
Right. Well, actually, something I need to point out as well that I think Felix will appreciate is if you download the PDF version, there's like a little acknowledgement at the front. It says, "To Jennifer and Mary, our respective partners in life, mothers of our children, and two who sacrificed countless nights and weekends for this 4th edition." I really feel like they shouldn't have bothered. they shouldn't have sacrificed those nights.
Yeah, you should probably have been raising your kids instead of the 4th edition, but I think like a big part about being a parent is doing things then regretting them.
I feel like their kids, the mothers of our children, they say, I feel like their kids are going to be asking, Jennifer and Mary, like, why isn't daddy coming to my Little League game? And it's like, well, he's calculating the effect of occupational licensing in Nevada on the personal liberty of people who live there. It's like,
he's got to figure out if North or South Dakota is more free. He's been up weeks on that.
The other occupation in Nevada that needs to be deregulated and deprofessionalized is, of course, prostitution.
Oh, right, absolutely.
Boing. Auga, auga.
Please do not oppress anybody's boners. That would be the worst thing you could do.
So that's the state of freedom in America. Everyone, and this goes back to like the National Review, like Kev Williams, J.D. Vance, moral crisis and the white working class thing. In these depressed communities, move to freer states like South Dakota.
Indiana's doing great. They only had a giant outbreak of HIV last year.
Yeah,
they're doing fantastic.
Yeah, move to New Hampshire. You can be free as you like and probably die of an opiate addiction. It's pretty.
That's amazing.
If you're a woman,
there's nothing freer than that.
If you're a single woman who's like sick of the dating scene and all these whack ass fuckboys, move to Alaska where there are 10-to-1 men for every woman. It'll
Dude,
be the
Alaskan Tinder has got to be great.
It will be the dating scene of your dreams.
If I was a woman, I would definitely be getting some tundra dick right now in Alaska.
That's what people say. What do women want? They want economic freedom. They want economic and personal liberty.
And that dick.
Thank you, Cato Institute.